Good morning. Today I'll be presenting on the effects of sleep deprivation on AP students' concentration and memory retention. Sleep deprivation, in simple terms, is a condition characterized by prolonged periods of inadequate or insufficient sleep and is a widespread public health issue. This condition seems to be most prevalent amongst adolescents. To be exact, around 70% of American teenagers have acquired severe sleep deprivation. The problem is that constantly being sleep deprived has many effects on the body, such as limiting cognitive function. Among these functions, memory and concentration appear to be especially affected. Most people impacted by sleep deprivation have yet to fully understand its consequences. There have been various works looking at sleep deprivation and memory in college students and adults. However, fewer works are looking at high school students. Typically, in high school, students such as myself participate in challenging advanced placement courses. Participation is widespread, with around 1.2 million students enrolled in an AP class in the year 2023. Generally, the immense workload in these classes causes students to have to juggle priorities and neglect sleep. Knowing this information moved me to seek to address sleep deprivation's effects on memory retention and focus in AP students at School X, in hopes of bringing greater awareness to the detrimental cognitive impairment associated with abandoning proper sleep. Before moving forward, however, it was crucial to analyze past studies exploring similar topics. A 2009 study conducted by researcher Marta Kopes found that sleep loss influences various aspects of neuropsychological behavior in children, including memory, primarily because sleep offers prime conditions for memory consolidation and supports the development of these memories. The results of Kopes' study raised concern because debilitated memory in adolescents can influence the way they socially interact, communicate, and complete tasks. A similar study was conducted by Potkin and Bunny in 2012, where they experimented with adolescents ages 10 to 14. This paper solidified the idea from Kopes' study that exposure to cognitive debilitation during adolescence can lead to long-term memory and concentration development regression. Given these relations, the present body of research highlights the urgency of the relationship between sleep and memory in adolescence. When exploring research surrounding AP students, Wong and Fan's 2023 study paralleled the common idea that excessive academic stress was the reason behind sleep disorders, sleep deprivation, and insomnia in Chinese students, who are in similar situations to AP students. If the stress levels in these academic environments lead to major sleeping problems, then additional research is needed to test if cognitive functioning, like memory and concentration, have also been disrupted. After reviewing previous research, I have noticed that the current body of knowledge covering sleep deprivation and memory retention in teenagers is largely general and has yet to examine this relationship in different circumstances, such as in accelerated academic studies, which makes AP students a reasonable population to analyze. This study was conducted in School X because of its rigorous academic environment and mandated yearly AP classes, providing a large study population. To bridge my gap in knowledge, I have formed the inquiry question: how does sleep deprivation impact AP students' memory, retention, and concentration in School X? I hypothesize that sleep deprivation will have a notable effect on memory retention and concentration because fatigue often interferes with brain function. To gather my data, this study utilizes a correlational analysis and follows a cross-sectional design to gather quantitative data concerning daytime sleepiness in adolescents and their performance on short-term memory assessments. This research method is best suited for my study because it allows me to collect data regarding both sleep deprivation levels and recollection skills in my participants and calculate a correlational relationship between my variables, sleep and memory. This study had a total of 73 participants ranging across 4 AP courses. Two data collection tools were used in the study, the first being the Cleveland Adolescent Sleepiness Questionnaire, which contained 13 questions in Likert scale format and was used to measure daytime sleepiness in adolescents. The second tool was a CDU word memory pretest, and the first 15 words were taken from the word bank because it had a wide variety and diverse range of different words. When conducting my study, an online Google form that was divided into 4 sections was distributed. The first section consisted of the sleep deprivation questionnaire, and participants were given 5 minutes to fill out the questionnaire. Afterwards, when participants finished, they were asked to add up the scores of their answers and write down their sum. The third step asked participants to put their devices aside and look at the classroom smartboard, where 15 words were displayed. Participants had 2 minutes to memorize the words. Once time was up, the bank was removed, and students had to write down as many words as they could remember in the next section. Lastly, Lastly, in the final section of the online form, there were 3 short response questions where students were asked to express their personal feelings. This procedure allowed me to gather data on both sleep and memory to complete my correlational analysis. To analyze the collected data, responses were stored in Google Sheets and later moved to Microsoft Excel. The creators of the questionnaire believed that a high score indicated a person was sleep deprived. Therefore, the midpoint formula was used to calculate a specific deprivation scale. Questionnaire total scores less than 39 signified a student was not sleep deprived, while total scores over 39 indicated that participants were sleep deprived. Moving on to the results of the study, after receiving the retention scores of each participant, a Pearson's correlation analysis was run to examine the quantitative data. As you can see in the scatter plot, sleep deprivation levels are all on the x-axis and memory retention scores are on the y-axis. The data is scattered all over the graph with a calculated correlation coefficient of 0.22. Hence, the data presents a weak positive correlation. Additionally, the p-value of this data set is 0.063, which indicates that this relationship is non-significant. Despite the correlational results, other findings seem to give greater insight into the relationship between sleep and memory in the participants. This bar graph illustrates a question from the sleep deprivation questionnaire. It asked students to rate how often they go through the whole school day without feeling tired. This graph was reverse coded and a score of 1 indicated every day, while a score of 5 indicated never. The graph displays that around half the participants answered with a 4 or 5, signaling that participating AP students feel exhausted throughout their classes, which in turn can impact their memory performance. Another set of noteworthy data includes this other question in the questionnaire. This question asks students if they feel alert in their classes on the same scale as the previous example, with a score of 1 indicating every day and a score of 5 indicating never. The results showcase that 68.4% of students answered feeling alert in their classes only somewhat occasionally or close to never. Such statistics add to the existing understanding that sleep deprivation impairs memory, as most students agree that a lack of sleep is associated with feelings of inattentiveness. As for the qualitative data gathered from the short responses, these responses were divided into 4 main themes: concentration, exhaustion, memory retention, and sleep deprivation. In general, responses from each category conveyed ideas of problems with concentration and exhaustion, and students also reported having a higher ability to concentrate and memorize new information when they were well rested. Although a clear statistical correlation was not found, other forms of data provided sufficient evidence that sleep deprivation reduces memory consolidation in AP students. In the broader context, these results strengthen a main theme from past studies, which is that students notice negative effects on memory when deprived of sleep, but the lack of a strong correlation indicates that a definite relationship between sleep and memory cannot yet be identified without further research. On to conclusions and future directions. Overall, the main conclusions of this study include that there is a weak, non-significant statistical correlation between sleep deprivation and memory retention in AP students at School X. However, participant responses illustrated that sleep deprivation ultimately results in these students feeling tired, unmotivated, and unfocused, causing a negative impact on memory. Some limitations in this study include that only 15 words were used in this memory assessment, and the words were relatively simple. This could flaw results as it didn't challenge participants enough. Another limitation could be that this study was short-term and therefore could be less accurate when noticing trends in participant behavior and reactions as compared to a long-term study. For significance, noticing a common finding between age groups can lead to widespread awareness regarding sleep deprivation, effects on memory impairment, and it can also promote priority for adolescent wellness programs and promote adolescents' well-being. Further areas of research that future researchers can look into is that future researchers could implement a harder memory assessment with a short completion time to better understand how participants utilize their complex memory skills. For example, they could use a longer list of words. Future researchers could also monitor sleep deprivation and memory in a longitudinal study and see if there's a significant correlation when sleep deprivation is recorded over a longer period of time. These are my main references. And thank you so much.